What's up, YouTube? Dual Killing Anime. My video for today, I'm gonna be making a topical video. It's gonna be about Natsu, Drag Nail, something like Fairy Tail. Yeah, Fairy Tail. Yeah, my Fairy Tail video, anime / manga. Topic for today, I'm just gonna talk about the basic story or the basic argument that's been coming for a long time, and it's something that I passed over when I was looking for the forums. I recently got into Fairy Tail, the anime, and I thought I'd look it over. I recently got into the manga, let's see, about a couple days ago, and this topic came across on fairylaw.net. It's a forum website dedicated to Fairy Tail, and I came across this thread that read, let me see right now. Fairy Law, yeah. I went on Fairy Law, and it showed an interesting thread. It said something that I really want you guys to hear about. It had the topic of who was the main character, or who was, the central part of the story, the main character in the Fairy Tail story. And I like to talk about it because I have my own opinion on it. Let's go. Alright, I'm on the website right now, fairylaw.net. And let's see, general manga discussion. And the thing that's interesting about this was that this was a delegation between who was the main character of the story, Natsu, Drag Nail, and Lucy Heartophilia. And since I'm recently getting into the story, I'm getting a feel for who's actually doing the most and who's actually, being covered amongst the story. There's a lot of arguments going back and forth saying that Lucy Heartophilia is the main character, Natsu, Drag Nail is the main character, based on the presentation of them in the series. This is some of the ideas that I've begun to read, and this is just how I feel about it. So, first of all, this isn't, some of my opinions won't be of mine personally. It's just been arguments that have been said before, but this is, I think, what is potent to the conversation. So, first, it goes from why Natsu is considered the main character in the story. Natsu Drag Nail is considered the main person in the story because he has the main central focus throughout the story. He's the one who goes out and is most proactive to the story, which means that in any type of arc or in any type of saga inside of the Fairy Tail series, he's going to have a main play into it, which means he's going to have a major part. He's the one who faces the final villain always. He's the one who gets the most spotlight. An arc cannot go without Natsu in some type of spotlight. Contrary to Natsu Drag Nail, Lucy Heartophilia has been shown in different types of arcs. The Galuna Island arc, the festival, I forgot, something festival arc, with Loxus, and the Tenryu Island arc, to not be very significant to the story and to be such as a side character, rather Natsu Drag Nail has focused on being one of the main characters. So a lot of people would say he's the main character because he's had such a focus into that. So that argument might be a little but here's another person's argument about why Lucy Heartophilia might be the person who's the person who's the main character. First of all, they like to say that she has the point of view of the story. So anything that goes on in Fairy Tail and the narrative that starts from the beginning of the story and transgressing on is from her viewpoint. So Lucy Heartophilia is saying everything, as he writes in her little, notes to her dead mother, that everything's going on in Fairy Tail, and all these stories that are being told are happening through Lucy Heartophilia's eyes. Also, Lucy Heartophilia has gotten a good amount of character development, and we see things through her spectrum and experiencing through her spectrum. A lot of things are thrown around in this argument, which is said on the forum here. So you can just go to fairylaw.net, and then you can look up, when you scroll down, you can look up Fairy Tail general manga discussions, and you can look under the topic that says that has something around saying who's the main character, Natsu Drag Nail or Lucy Heartophilia, or something of that nature, and you'll find the whole conversation there. My personal opinion of it is that the main character of the story, no matter what people feel about it, is, drum roll please, Lucy Heartophilia. Yes, the main character of the story is Lucy Heartophilia. Lucy Heartophilia is the main character of the story, and here's why. Here's my reasons why. In a story such as this, it's kind of confusing to tell what type of role Hiro Mashima may take with his main character of the story, since there are a bunch of main characters who get a good amount of development, except the main character, of course. Except the main protagonist, of course, Natsu Dragon. Yeah. The main protagonist of the story, which you guys have already guessed, is the guy who's driving the action of the story. He's the guy who's always leading into the story. The guy, who makes the story happen, which is Natsu Dragon. A lot of times in, a North American culture, you like to say that the protagonist, the main protagonist, is the main character. But in this situation, it's not. The main character is Lucy Heartfilia. One of the most important facts is that she's the point of view character. She's the narrative. She has the narrative of the story. She doesn't have the narrative fully of the story, but things are being seen through her perspective, and most of the perspective she's giving is upon Natsu Dragon. But for the general basis and the plot of Fairy Tail, for anything that happens in the story, Natsu Dragon is the driving force for anything that happens in the storyline. That's why he's the main protagonist. You can see this in all the fights that he's been in. You can see this in all much attention he gets. But he never has the set of being the guy who has, let's say, character development or a changing character or introspection. I don't see some of these elements flowing into a main character. I see that flowing into a main protagonist. But with Lucy Heartfilia, you get some type of identity with Lucy Heartfilia. She will be important to the overall story. I'm betting her mother will, because she died on that same X777, July 777, X77 thing, with the Dragon Slayers and their dragons and whatnot. So her storyline will be more important than that. And also with the fact that she's gotten a good amount of development, throughout the series, and is important to the story of Fairy Tail. It's a lot of people would like to say that the person at the beginning of the story, how it's set up when a person finds this guy who's a part of this bigger thing, thus being Natsu Dragon, who's a part of the Fairy Tail, that they will be the main character. Well, this is the same road with it. But a lot of people would like to say counter that, positions have been reversed, and the guy who actually goes out and finds this newcomer is actually a part of the team, is actually a part of, the team and how everything is working out. I disagree. I think Natsu Dragon is the main protagonist, and he's the driving force for whatever actions happen in this manga / anime. Dude, you guys gotta think about it. Like, when you think of the person who's always up there, who's always driving the action, Natsu Dragon drives the action. He goes against all the villains, all the antagonists, or different types of antagonists. While Lucy Heartfilia plays the background character, and he gives coverage and introspection throughout the story of Fairy Tail and throughout the other characters. This helps because Natsu's character profile isn't synonymous with the type to hold his own type of narrative or his own type of introspection for himself. For example, you can also reach this with One Piece, but this isn't the same where One Piece, where Luffy is the main character. Because, and a lot of people like to say this, I'm not basically judging it solely on the thought of introspection and the narrative towards a person. I'm basing it solely on the importance to the story and the overall guidance of the story. If you can see where the Fairy Tail story is leading, it's leading a lot of hype towards the Dragon Slayers and what has happened to them, and what's happened on that 7/7 date. And 9 times out of 10, I can bet you that whatever happened to her mother on that day and whatever happened to the dragons on that day are synonymous. That's why I believe Lucy Heartfilia is one of the keys to the story, and it can be very empty without her. That's why she is the main character through the narrative of her. I didn't think Hiro Mashima will put that in place so that Natsu Dragon would be able to have the narrative, so that Natsu Dragon would be able to have the narrative, so no one would be able to get what he's trying, he doesn't, that's not synonymous with his character. I know there's a lot of discussions on this coming down below, but I think I'd like for you guys to describe who the main character of Fairy Tail is. I've agreed. I stuck in my head until you guys could say anything else that the main character is Natsu Dragon. You're gonna have to come up with a lot of things, But until you guys have a better opinion than I have right now, then I'm gonna stick with Lucy Heartophilia as the main character of Fairy Tail, and Natsu Dragneel being the main protagonist, the driving force for anything that's happening in the series. You know how someone will tell a story like a fairy tale. You know, maybe, you know, have you heard them? Someone is telling a story, but then you hear about another guy in the story. The person who's telling the story is actually the main character, and you're seeing things through his perspective. But the actual person who's driving the story is the main character of their story that they're trying to tell you. I know that's going to sound a lot, but when you actually think about it, it'll make more sense. And it'll make more sense. So actually watch the series more and see who has more importance later on down the line to the story and who's affected worldwide in the story. I say it's obviously Lucy Heartophilia, but Natsu Dragneel, it is a central part of this story for the progression of Fairy Tail. That's why the author mentions, you know, and exonerates his attention so much for him. Alright, it has been Dual Killing Anime. I just came up with a short little video to make you guys think of a, you know, character, you know, just like the technical side of a story. And also for you to, since I've taken, you know, new interest in Fairy Tail, since a lot of people on the YW, on the Yak, I've been interested in telling me, you know, read Fairy Tail. And all others in my anime club at school have been telling me, read Fairy Tail. You know, this is an interesting topic for me. A Fairy Tail manga / anime review may come later, but I don't think it's worth it because it hasn't finished yet. But I have a lot of opinions about it. This is just one of the main focal opinions I had. So comment down below, you know, subscribe if you want to. Like the video, dislike the video, I don't really care. But the most thing is that I get a response out of you guys so I can see what you guys want. Alright guys, Dual Killing Anime, all the quality with none of the HD. Peace.